Hey, so I went down to Auburn, Indiana, and I visited the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Museum. What I've decided to do is, this is such an extensive collection, I decided to break it up into a couple of shorter videos. So in this video, I'm just going to be talking about the Duesenbergs that are in their collection, and also touch on a little bit of the history of Duesenberg. So let's go and take a look at just the Duesenbergs that are in the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Museum. All right, before we jump into the collection, I have to talk about the building itself. What we're looking at right now was built in 1929 as the headquarters and showroom for the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Automobile Company. This is the same building that these cars are now housed in. This has been fully restored and looks beautiful in all of its Art Deco glory. When you think of Duesenberg, chances are the car you're thinking of is the Model J, like this 1931 example. When they designed the Model J, they set out to make one of the finest cars in the world, and that was a mission well accomplished here. This one is a convertible coupe with body by Murphy featuring a disappearing top. You notice that the convertible top in the down position completely hides away. Duesenberg's history obviously doesn't start with the Model J. Brothers Fred and August Duesenberg had been making cars since 1905. They started and then sold the Mason Car Company, then started and sold the first iteration of the Duesenberg Company, and then in World War I designed this aircraft engine. This V16 behemoth is just shy of 3,500 cubic inches and makes 800 horsepower. They also received a contract to build this 16-cylinder engine designed by Bugatti. The large gap between the cylinder banks is for the 37mm cannon. The engine was redesigned for greater dependability, but the war ended and the contract was canceled before full production started. In 1920, they formed the Duesenberg Automobile and Motor Company. They built cars and racing engines. In fact, Duesenberg-powered cars took 8 of the top 10 places in the 1922 Indianapolis 500, including the winning car. They also won in 1924, 25, and 27. Incredibly, the very first car they produced has been restored and is here in the museum. This Model A 1921 coupe was made for Samuel Castle of Hawaii, with the body made to his exact specifications by the Bender Body Company of Cleveland. Like later Duesenbergs, Duesenberg supplied the chassis and the body was built to the owner's specifications by a coach building company of their choice. The Model A was the first series production car to have a straight 8 engine and the first to have 4-wheel hydraulic brakes. Here's a 1926 Model A touring car. This one with body by Mills Spa and Irish of Indianapolis. By the time this car was built, despite their racing success, the Duesenberg Company was on the financial ropes. The company had entered receivership in 1924, and in 1926 it was purchased by E.L. Cord, and he had plans for this company. Here's another 1926 Model A. This one is a 7-passenger limousine that was originally purchased by the mayor of San Francisco. After the Cord buyout this year, Fred Duesenberg stayed on as vice president of engineering while brother August focused on Duesenberg Brothers, a strictly racing-based company. This 1927 Duesenberg is actually an improvement on the Model A in what's known as a Model X. The body is by Bruin & Company and features a really super neat spotlight right in the front there. Also, if we look inside, there is a custom hat holder because you need a place to put your hat. And I really like the little fan there. There were only 13 Model X chassis ever made, and only 5 of them actually received a finished body. The museum has another Model X, this one with a phantom body by Lock & Company of New York. The Model X featured a reworking of the Model A straight 8 engine and a lowering of the center of gravity with suspension changes. The car was now capable of 100 miles an hour. It's thought that this specific car was shown on the car show circuit in 1928 to keep the Duesenberg name out there. E.L. Cord was working on something big and wanted to keep the Duesenberg name in the public eye. Speaking of car shows, this next Model X was built strictly as a show car for the 1927 New York Auto Salon. Designed by the Duesenberg brothers with body by McFarland, you can see that this 2-seat speedster would be a real showstopper.
Also, if you're keeping track at home, of the 5 Model X's that were ever produced, 3 of them are in the museum. Looking at this car, it's easy to imagine seeing it in 1927 and wondering what might be coming next from the Duesenberg company. For a big hint in terms of where this is going, let's take a look at this 1927 Duesenberg Model Y. The Model Y was never a production car. This is a production prototype and is the only one ever built. It was slated for destruction, but the body was saved by August Duesenberg and was later mounted on a Model A chassis. The big thing they were working on? You guessed it, the Model J. This 1929 example features a body by the Walter M. Murphy Company of Pasadena, California. Cord had wanted an American luxury car that could rival anything that Europe had to offer, and he delivered it in spades with the Model J. Based on the successful Duesenberg racing engines, the engine was a 420 cubic inch straight 8 that produced 265 horsepower. Here we're looking at another body by Murphy. This is on a 1930 Model J convertible. The stock market crash in 1929 did not bode well for Duesenberg. This meant that a lot of the traditional buyers of luxury cars just were not there. In fact, most of the Duesenberg J bodies were built in 1929 or 1930 and then waited years for a buyer. The years given on these cars are the years that the chassis was sold and the body was installed. This beautiful 1931 was designed by Gordon Buerig and built by Murphy. Duesenberg became the status symbol car in the early 1930s. In addition to royalty, owners of Duesenbergs read like a who's who of Hollywood elite, including Clark Gable, Mae West, Ginger Rogers, Greta Garbo, Tyrone Power, and Howard Hughes. Al Capone even owned one. The story goes that James Cagney posed for a picture next to one just to boost his career. Yes, that's a radio that you're looking at in the back seat, and this is 1930. This car also came equipped with a woman's silver Tiffany makeup set. What comes with a Model J? Anything you want. Here's a 1932 convertible with body by Murphy. This year, Duesenberg introduced a supercharger that boosted horsepower to 320. The car could make over 100 miles an hour in second gear. The supercharged version was known as the SJ. A Duesenberg slogan was that the only thing that could pass a Duesenberg was another Duesenberg. Here's a dual cowl Phaeton designed by in-house stylist Gordon Buerig. I really like this dual cowl design. Note that the rear seat passengers have their own fold-up windshield here. Sadly, all good things must come to an end, and the Duesenberg's run was over in 1937 when Cord sold the company and it was dissolved. The last Model J sold was assembled in 1940, leaving a legacy of what may be the greatest cars ever produced.
So that was the Duesenberg collection at the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Museum. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I have some other videos coming up from the same museum covering some of the other cars in their collection. That will be super interesting. In the meantime, you can go ahead and watch some of my other videos. There's a link right here to some of my other interesting videos. And there's a link right there for subscribing to the channel. Please do that. Also, go ahead and like the channel and discuss down here in the comments, talk about cars or ask questions or whatever you want to do. I'll talk to you later. Bye.